I know when we were raising our children, we often think about we always think about doing the right thing and trying to set a good example for our kids and trying to teach them manners and teach them the right way to live and ethics and all of these things. And you hope that when they leave the nest, that all those lessons that you taught them will stick. But there's a lesson that's waiting for you to show them when they do leave the nest. And that means when your nest becomes empty, what's the next lesson you're going to give them? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm Julie Waas, and this is Midlife Unleashed with Julie Waas. Thanks for watching. So I always think about legacy. Legacy is so important. Let me tell you a story, and the reason why it's so important to me. I always joke about you can either be a great example or a horrible warning to someone. And I guess sadly, when I think about my own life and I think about my mother and what happened when she became an empty nester, it really, really affected me deeply. And maybe that's why I'm sitting here talking to you today. And maybe because of that and because of what she didn't do, I was inspired to be different. But let me just share with you that in case you don't know my story, when I was 15, my older sister went to college. And as soon as my mother came home from taking her to college, she went to bed for 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, she stayed in that bed. I guess she got up to use the bathroom and probably to eat. I only ever think she came downstairs. And every day I'd come home from school. I was I don't know, it was my second year of high school. And I'd run up the stairs to see if she was still alive. And I'd sit there on the bed, tell her about my day, and then take care of whatever needed to be taken care of in the house. And in the meantime, I was terrified. And I thought my mother was dying. And turns out she wasn't dying. She was really, when she finally got out of bed and going to the doctor, she didn't have anything physically wrong with her. But this was the late 1970s, and people didn't talk about empty nest syndrome. Of course, her nest wasn't really empty because I was there, but that didn't seem to help. And I have to tell you that when I look back at my mother's life, she did not embrace midlife. She did not embrace the empty nest. No, this was a devastating time for her, and she sunk into a very deep depression. And sadly, my father, I guess, was very old-fashioned, although he had two daughters that he always encouraged to do stuff. I mean, he told me to go to law school, and I went to law school, and here we are. But he never let my mother do anything, and she never spoke up for herself. So when she became an empty nester and after we all left the nest and we became adults, she became a very angry and bitter woman who focused her anger and her bitterness on me. It was very hard, very, very hard for me. And, but it was a really powerful lesson. And I chose to raise my children differently. I chose not to be angry and bitter. And God knows we all have something to be angry and bitter about. And I've certainly had that in my life. But I realized, even in my teens, that what she did was not what I was going to do. And I realized the lesson she was leaving for me was not do as I do, but do as I don't do. And I don't think she ever meant to leave that lesson for me. But it was a lesson, an important lesson for me. And I made a decision that I was not going to follow in her footsteps, despite the fact that she told me that I was responsible for everything that went wrong in her life. I told her when she said that to me, I said, look, I have children. They didn't ask to be born. I give them everything I give them out of the goodness of my heart because it's what I want to do, and I will never blame them for it. So, not to get down a sad rabbit hole, I'm telling this story because I think it's so important to think about the legacy that you are creating. You may have spent your whole, first few decades raising your kids and giving them really positive lessons, but let it, don't let your future, your midlife and beyond ruin or cloud those lessons. Frankly, sadly, I don't remember the good times. I don't remember my childhood, the fun that we had as a family and all of those things. What I remember is my mother's anger and bitterness and depression. And that's the legacy she left me. And I could have done that too. I could have taken my pain when my kids left the nest and followed in her footsteps, but I chose not to because I did not want my kids to witness that. I did not want to leave that legacy for my children. What I wanted them to see was that mom was okay. Mom was living her life. Mom was doing stuff. She was doing good things. She was taking care of herself. She was exercising and taking care of her body. She was became an artist. Who knew? My kids were certainly shocked. Um, I ran 2 half marathons. Who knew that I could do that? So a little training goes a long way. Different things. And it was so important to me that they see mom as joyful, that they see mom as someone who has her own life and is living her own life. And my middle son said to me recently, I don't know how we got on the subject of different mothering styles. And he actually told me he was so grateful that I was not that mother that made him feel guilty when he didn't call me. And I don't. I'm busy with my life. He's busy with his life. I understand that. I don't make him feel badly because you didn't call me, you didn't do this. No, I let him live his life. I let my children live their lives, and they let me live my life. And I sure hope that the example that I'm setting by doing all these things, by being brave and courageous, and let me tell you, maybe we don't talk about it enough, but yeah, it is scary when you get to that midlife stage and you don't know what to do with the rest of your life. And it does take courage to move forward. It's easy to do nothing. It's easy to sink into that depression and live in that depression. And it does take courage to make a decision that you're not going to do that. But with that courage, you are setting such an amazing example for your kids. So I want to encourage you to be courageous, to think about the legacy that you're leaving, to think about what you want to be remembered for, not to be morbid, but so that your children, the people that come after you can say, Mom was pretty cool. Mom did a lot with her life. Mom didn't need to get permission from anyone to do anything. That legacy is so important. I guess my mother, when I go back to that phrase, my mother was kind of a horrible warning for me. Not a good example. But I made a conscious decision to do something different. So be that good example. It's not that hard to do. You don't have to become a professional artist like me. There's so many things you can just be doing every day joyfully to fill up the time that maybe you used to have filled with your children. So if you'd like to talk about it, talk about how you can create your own legacy, let's chat. Let's hop on a call and get started talking about it. You can find the link to my calendar in the description of my channel. You can also grab my reinvention blueprint that can help you start thinking about those things to create that legacy, to start and to make sure that you have an amazing midlife and beyond, because you can do it. Your children are watching. So I hope that this was meaningful to you. And if you know of anyone that might find meaning in this video, please share it with them. Please like it. Please comment. Let me know how you're building your legacy and what your plans are. Like I said, I'd love to chat with you. So please hop on a call so we can plan together. We can scheme so that you create an amazing legacy. And please subscribe to my channel. So I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, your children are watching. Be the good example and have an amazing midlife and beyond. I'll talk to you soon.